All right, guys, I'm going to show you how to mix vocals in Pro Tools. Okay, so this is just a quick little run through. This is not a full mix because all these other tracks aren't mixed. The singer is Alan Stone. Shout out to Alan Stone. So the first thing is leveling. So I leveled everything else down just for this video's purpose. And we're keeping the vocal as the loudest, I'll say quote unquote loudest thing. So the first step with vocals is usually a compressor of some sort. So we're going to go to dynamics, and you could use any of the stock compressors, whether that's the 1176 clones or if it's, the other compressors involved. Let's do the 1176, which is a very common vocal compressor. Let's push the input until it hits that threshold. We're going to have a faster attack for a vocal. Now, a lot of people are afraid to compress, so I'm going to exaggerate this so we can hear the tone. We're taking out 7 dB. It still sounds good, so don't be afraid to really push a compressor. I think too many of us are afraid to really slam a compressor. Now, it does take away some of the dynamic, but everything else has dynamic, so everything doesn't need dynamic in this case. So that's 90% of the sound. It's just getting the compressor to pull up the levels and make everything sound cool. Some compressors add harmonics. It really depends on the type of compressor. Now, there's other compressors in here. I forget what the stock one is called. Is it Comp? No, that's Arturia stuff. So I think it's called Dyne 3. So here's the other compressor you could use. Probably a little more clinical, I would assume, because it's not modeled after anything. Okay, so now this is microseconds. Excuse me, we can go down to microseconds, which is that U, so it can go even faster than milliseconds. Pretty crazy. So if you need a starting point, -20 usually captures most of the vocal most of the time. It's not a hard rule, we're just starting there. 4:1 is usually a decent ratio. 2:1 to 4:1 for a vocal. So in this case, I have a lot of stuff a little bit lower. We would have to push the input gain. So in this case, we could either boost it going in, or I could just lower the threshold in this case. Only for this vocal. So I'm going to exaggerate this so you can hear it. And I'm going to have the release extend a little bit longer so we can hear the actual compressor. It says we're taking out about 6 dB. Same with the other compressor. I'm just trying to see these back. So you wouldn't even know a compressor was on if I didn't really tell you. It's just very clean. I like the other one because it adds a little bit of something in there. Okay. It's like a zzz. It pulls out that zzz part of the sound. Next up, we're going to add an EQ. Really, all you need for vocals is a compressor and an EQ. Everything else is just creative stuff. But it really comes down to just an EQ and a compressor. And older compressors, analog compressors, they add harmonics to the sound. So you're going to get a little bit of what they call color or overtones. And that helps thicken up the vocal a little bit because it fills in the gaps and makes it a little more bitey. It's like me talking like zzz, adding that zzz to the sound. So if you're ever wondering why people use the 1176 LE2A and stuff like that, and tube compressors and all that type of stuff, it's because it adds something to the sound. It's not just leveling the volume, it's adding harmonics to the sound. I forget what their default EQ is called. I want to say it's called EQ3. Here it is. Now for this, we're just enhancing stuff. If you have to do corrective EQ, you would need mostly a dynamic EQ in that case before the compressor. And then you go into the compressor. And then you have a better signal going into the compressor, and then you EQ. So it depends on how bad the vocal is. This vocal didn't have any flaws in it, from what I heard. So now we're just boosting stuff to make it sound enhanced. We're just gonna boost about, I like boosting 14K and above.
Even from a mirror, but that her dukes are not the daisies.
Let's see how low we can go.
Her shape
Okay, so 9K pulls on that sheen of the mic.
inside. Oh, beautiful lady.
I'm boosting it until it sounds good. I'm not worried about the dB levels. I boosted it 10 dB.
Maybelline, baby. Even from a mirror, but that her dukes are not the daisies, and her shape.
We really don't need anything on this vocal. The microphone's good. It probably had compression going in because it sounds a little processed going in. And then we're just hitting it with the 1176.
Inside. Oh, beautiful lady.
People tend to sleep on 200 hertz and 400 hertz. This can add body to your vocal. This, again, it depends on the mic. This mic doesn't really need it. Let's hear it without.
Maybelline, baby.
But because I boosted so much highs, you don't want the vocal to feel like it's just all highs.
Even from a mirror.
I found that when you EQ, once you go to one side pretty heavy, the whole thing feels that way. Like if you boost the highs heavy, it will feel like a high frequency track for the most part. I'm generalizing.
But that her dukes are not the daisies, and
So see that like that chest energy we're pulling out? That not the it's like this area.
her shape inside. Oh, beautiful lady.
To me, it sounds good at 200.
Maybelline, baby.
So that just adds an extra weight. It's very subtle, especially just soloing the vocal. Again, everything from this point is just your own style. It's compressor, EQ. It's that simple.
Even from a mirror, but that her dukes are not the daisies, and her shape inside.
Now that vocal feels like it's alive, it's there. Really simple vocal. If you want to learn more about the basics, just go to premium.busyworksbeats.com. I have a course called Mixing Fundamentals. In that course, I teach you compression, saturation, EQ, what else? Reverb, delays, all the things that stack up to a bigger and better performance. And I show you how to mix pro level records as well. So go to premium.busyworksbeats.com. I'll leave a link below. Peace out, guys.